Polish Workers' Party. His name is Rafał. I don't know if his English is good, but he will practice today, so you will be your teacher of English.
All right.
Um,
Nice to meet you.
So, Comrade Hellas, for people who watch this video today, I want to say that we already talked 2 weeks ago. If you want to find this conversation, it is conversation with Vijay Prashad, but the latest hour it is conversation with Comrade Hellas. So for today, I would like to make our discussion in two parts. First part, I would like to continue asking question about Greece, and after I would like to make a little debate with you, because I watched some of your video, and I am not agree with things which you are said. So it's okay for you?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here, Michal. It is nice to be with you and Comrade Rafał. We can start if you want.
Okay. So my first question is about the Communist Party of Greece. For my perspective, Communist Party of Greece is the best party in Europe. It's the best Communist Party in Europe because all other parties in Italy, in France, and other in 1960s they started to become revisionist, Euro-communist, and when the Soviet Union collapsed, they started to finish with communism. They
adopted the social democratic agenda. Yeah.
Yes. And Communist Party of Greece, they never have been.
There wasn't that vote in Greece. They had a vote whether to transition to social democracy or maintain Marxism-Leninism. And in Greece, the vote went in favor of Marxist-Leninism. This happened in the 90s after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Okay. So my question is, why this party is so special? Why it is? Do you agree with me? Because for me, it is only observation. Somebody who don't speak Greek and only heard about that there exists big communist party in Greece, which all the time they practice the tradition of the Marxist, of the Stalin, and the revolution, and it is a big party. It is not a sect, and why this party in your opinion is special?
Well, as you said, it's the only party that has maintained Marxism-Leninism. It is the oldest continuing party in Greece, still active. It was founded in 1918, so it is 102 years old. It is very active. It has the strongest youth membership in Greece, and it is active in all fronts. It has a youth wing. It has a trade union wing. I think it might even have a woman's wing, although I'm not familiar with that. So it's generally a very active party in the Greek politics. It has managed to be in the in the Greek Parliament every year since 1974 and the restoration of Republic in Greece. And as we said, it's the only party that has maintained a Marxist line. So I guess this is some of the aspects why it is special compared to other movements in Europe.
Yes, but you didn't respond why. You said only this observation. That this
right.
is this.
Why it didn't turn social democratic?
Yes.
Well, in Greece we had a very rural tradition and then an industrial base. So the proletariat in Greece did not develop, let's say, reformist opinions or revisionist opinions, and the Communist Party of Greece is strongly related to the industrial proletariat. And I think it wasn't so much influenced with Eurocommunism. Now, in 1960s, the Communist Party in Greece split in two: the so-called Communist Party of the exterior, being the Communist Party you know today, and the Communist Party of the interior, being the forefather of today political party Syriza, which is the largest left-wing party in Greece and former government. So in that sense, in the 50s, I'm taking you 10 years before, the Communist Party was heavily Khrushchevite, and they deleted a lot of Marxist, Leninists, and Maoists. So due to the two splits in the 1956 with the 20th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, and 1968 with the invasion of Czechoslovakia, there were these two major splits. So I suppose the Communist Party of Greece didn't have any wings on the right and the left, any other wings that disagreed with the party policy. So it got purged, let's say. So there was not a lot of support for social democracy, Eurocommunism, or any such movements. I hope that covers your question.
And could you say something more how this party works today? Because for me, it's my dream to be a member party like this. Strong, big party with a proletarian base, with a good tradition political, that I don't have to be ashamed that I'm not agree with this, I'm not agree with that. If I, of course, I didn't make big research about the KKA, but sometimes in the internet of our pseudo-communist Polish party, Communist Party of Poland. They sometimes publish the articles, the traduction of the speeches of the member of the KKA, the member of Euro Parliament, and also one of these leader of the KKA came to Poland, and they organized meeting that he made the solidarity with Polish communists, which they have a lot of problem with the Polish state. Also in Greece, they were the manifestation in front of Polish embassy, solidarity with Polish people. So maybe, and in Europe, it is Greek Communist Party, which was the most strongly make this campaign solidarity with Polish communists. So maybe it is why I like this party. But
right, the Communist Party of Greece right now has its own newspaper. It used to have its own TV channel. It has its own radio show. It is very active, as I said, in universities and places of work, like industrial bases. It maintains these wings, like the student wing and the trade union wing. It is functioning under congresses. Every 5 years, the members are invited to discuss on policy and be informed. It is still, let's say, a bit. It follows like a bit vanguardism. There is like the big members and all of that, but everyone can participate. It also has its own magazine. Like, it is quite active. The leader of the party is, of course, the general secretary of the Communist Party, and is elected by the Central Committee. So if you were interested to make a political career, you will have to go through a membership to be accepted, and then you will have to go through the General Committee if you wanted to go up in some higher position. It is quite fundamental to know that although the Communist Party has a lot of success in the Greek parliament and the European elections, it is also very populistic, which means that, for example, in Greece, an MP makes about 8,000 euros a month, which is, let's say, it must be 40,000 zloty or something like that. Yeah, it's about 40,000 zloty a month, the wage of the MP, member of parliament. And the Communist Party gives the majority of that money to the party, the members, and only keep a living wage of 4,000 zloty for themselves. So it is quite populistic, and it maintains working class traditions. Its leaders are not like other political parties that are super wealthy and have, like the Prime Minister of Greece right now has, if I'm not incorrect, 30 houses of his own, even in London and Paris, wealthy apartments, a lot of cars, a business of his own, stock market, the leader of the Conservatives. The leader of the Communists is very simplistic and only has his own house and only accepts a tenth of his wage by the state. I don't know if you'd like to know anything else, you may ask me. I will give you again the...
Okay, I would like to say that the Polish social democracy, there are two members of the parliament which they complained in media that they earn I think 10,000 zlotys per month, but everything is free for them. The transport public is free, the other things also is free, so they earn 10,000 zloty, and in media they said, "Oh, it is impossible for me to live with this salary." It is, and when you said that the member of the Communist Party take only
4,000, yeah.
4,000, I can be proud that communists are like the working people.
Yeah, out of the 40, they take only 4. That's very nice of them. Aside of that, members of parliament in Greece have a lot of privileges. They have their own car provided by the state, a bodyguard. They rent them a house. If they're not from the capital, they have the right for transportation fees and a house. So they have a lot of privileges and are very wealthy MPs. So the Communist Party, because Greece suffered a recession, as I told you, Greece used to be the 25th largest economy in the world. We were very wealthy, but because of the recession, we fall now to the 41st place. We fell a lot. So the Communist Party said, we are going to make this distinction, and we are not going to get paid these massive amounts of money. We will return it to the people. We don't need 40,000, for example, in zloty, 8,000 euros. We need only 800. That's enough for us to have a living wage, and the rest can go back to the people.
Okay, so I would like to ask about the recession, because in the communist movement in Western countries, when you speak with them and ask about the revolution, they said, "Today it is not good time for the revolution, because revolution we can make in the time of the recession, in the time when the capitalism is in crisis." And if I could understand the situation economic of Greece since 2008, 2009 is in all the time is crisis. All the time it is recession. So it is the revolutionary situation in Greece if we take this theory. So do you think that it is possible for Communist Party of Greece or other communist organization to use this to profit this situation and make revolution, or it is far right which will take power with this?
No, absolutely not. The recession in Greece that happened between 2011 and 2017. Currently, the recession is over, but because of COVID, we have a second recession now, as all other countries. I don't think there was a lot of protests. There was a massive movement in 2011 that they didn't want to cooperate with the government. Some people even want to leave the EU, for example. I don't think it is quite possible now. If it wasn't possible in 2011, we have a lot of hurdles. It is not only my personal opinion. The Communist Party of Greece, for example, always says that the situation right now in Greece is not mature for something like that. I believe personally that we need more organization. We need the people to participate in politics, starting young in universities, and then in their workplace, in trade unions. We need an educated vanguard to guide us, and we need to boost our numbers and create social groups, social pressure groups to forward our legislation and our demands. I don't know how possible is a violent revolution in Europe right now. This is caused by the fact that the working class in Europe is fairly limited. Most people in Europe are petit bourgeois. They live parasitically. So they have, as Marx described, they are a little bit conservative. They want to maintain the current system. So I don't think we'll have a massive popular support for any kind of revolution anytime soon. The revolution can still happen. I'm in favor of the revolution. It can happen with many ways. And to begin such an endeavor, you will have to create a strong, solid base, a core of ideology and organization and activity in the party.
Okay, so now we can talk about the ideology, because I watch your channel, your videos, and I have problem to to understand what is your ideology, because in one way you publish the movies about Pol Pot and stuff like this, and other I listened your I watched your videos when Biden became president of United States, and if I could understand, you were happy that Biden became president. So I have never seen in my life somebody who in one way support Pol Pot and other way support democratic president from USA.
Exactly. I wouldn't say that I'm ideologically in support of Pol Pot. I'm not an agrarianist, but I believe that you mentioned President Biden, you mentioned Pol Pot. I believe in its circumstance there is ideology, and there is also pragmatism, and which way serves best our interests. And in Cambodia in the 70s, you either had Pol Pot or you had the Americans, and the dictator Lon Nol. So there weren't a wide variety of choices. You will ask me, well, is Pol Pot a Marxist-Leninist? Is he in favor of orthodox Marxism? I wouldn't disagree with you, obviously, but for the time of Cambodia, Pol Pot proved to be the anti-colonial independence movement in Cambodia, if you understand what I mean. In the same way, yes, go on.
I am not one of these communists who all the time said, I hate Stalin, I hate Pol Pot. There is one of the lectures of the Bruno Drwęski in my Polish channel about Cambodia in the time of Pol Pot, and he explained that in the 1970s there was a many bombs which are dropped in the Cambodia. All the time was few years they drop more bomb than in all the Second World War. And in this time he explained why this bomb, why this aggressive politic of the United States changed that the Marxist who came from Paris because Pol Pot lived in this city which I live today. And he was a member of the Communist Party of French Communist Party. But after, when he came to Cambodia and saw all this bombardment, and he changed his view. If I have problem with Pol Pot, it is only because his war against Vietnam. In this war, I support Vietnam, and there is accusation about Pol Pot that when he attacked Vietnam, he collaborated with the United States. So if I criticize Pol Pot, it is because he was the puppet of the CIA. I don't know it is true or not, but I know that he had a war against Vietnam, and in this war I support Vietnam.
Right. I'd say that the first point is that I believe that it is Vietnam who attacked Pol Pot, destabilized Cambodia, and installed their own puppet government in Cambodia, the Democratic Socialist Party there, that also became social democratic in the end, and created the re-establishment and the return of capitalism in Cambodia. As of Vietnam, it had become with the death of Ho Chi Minh, it had become more Soviet Union aligned, while Cambodia was China aligned. And at that time, you have this, Soviet split, and you have Khrushchev and Mao disagreeing on who will be, who have influence in Southeast Asia. As I said, I understand that Pol Pot had little options, and I want to believe that he did his best. That doesn't mean that I want to apply Pol Potism in the Western world or have an agrarian revolution in Greece. Marxism is a very difficult. It's a very difficult ideology, and the revolution can happen by many factions because our society is very complex. In East Asia and China, for example, the rural areas and the peasants were the driving force for socialism, and not the industrial basis that didn't exist at the time.
Yes, but for you today, Vietnam
If
is
you excuse me,
capitalist.
I will take a minute. Yeah.
Towarzyszu Rafale, jak chcesz mówić, bo ja ci włączyłem głos, bo coś tam były jakieś szumy. Jak chcesz mówić, to tam, nie wiem, daj znać czy coś. Możesz mieć włączony mikrofon, ale jak będziesz szumiał ten mikrofon, to ci wyłączę znowu.
Okej.
No ale wiesz, no na razie... Co tam się dzieje?
Sorry for that. I hope you can see me now.
Yes. So, what do you think about Vietnam today?
I believe that Vietnam is trying to compete with China. They have opened their markets, of course. I'm not very well read on this topic, but what I know as a fact is that Vietnam is way more capitalistic than China. They have more private property. They haven't solved their poverty issues there. Some friends that I've talked to, some communists from the area, say that the party of Vietnam is still trying to build socialism there. But I'm not very well versed on this topic, so I cannot tell you if they're doing this or not.
My position about Vietnam, I had similar position to you, I think 2 years ago, but now in the time of the epidemic COVID-19, when I see that this big difference between how managed capitalist states from Western Europe or United States or Brazil and countries like that, and if I want to compare this with the China, Vietnam, Cuba, and I see that. Okay, maybe they are a capitalist market. Maybe there are many bad things, but the most important is how state is treat their citizens. And in Vietnam, we have only 35 people who died because of COVID, because Vietnam, in the first day of the epidemic, they want to protect all the citizens against it. And I am proud. I am proud of the success of socialism, that they can to fight with the COVID in their countries, and also they could help other countries. Cuba, for example, they help with the medicine, and in this time. When I am very proud of this, because in this all this propaganda anti-communist that communists are responsible for 100 million deaths, and communism is the starvation, communism is bad, and now I can say no. Communism showed in the time of epidemic that is better society that in United States, and with all these critiques which we can make, I think that no, maybe there is a little market, maybe there is a commercialization, but the basis of the country is still socialist, and this is my position.
Well, yeah, I have to agree with you. I suppose it matters as well the end goal, if they are building socialism and if they have abandoned it. And as long as they're building socialism, they are a third world country. They have all their time to work on it and do what's best for their people. In
Do you
Vietnam,
know the channel Luna Oi?
Luna.
Luna Oi.
Mm,
It is.
so,
I made an interview with her in this channel. She is Vietnamese. She's married with anarcho communist from USA who also lived in Vietnam. He made channel non-compete, so they are together. She communist and he anarcho communist. They lived in couple and make two YouTube channel very popular in English language. So I suggest you to watch this channel, because she published the the handbook which are produced by Communist Party of Vietnam. She translated in English, and many of her videos when she speak about Marxism, it is translation of she summarized these things which she find in these handbooks, and these handbooks this is very good stuff. It's much more better than the pseudo Marxists from the USA. So I suggest watch this channel, and you and maybe make debate with her about Vietnam, because it's very interesting. No?
all right. Thanks for suggesting. We mentioned President Biden, right?
Yes. So
Now,
why you are happy about Biden?
well, for first, Trump is out, and that is a big success on its own. Trump, aside of following a very capitalistic economic policy, giving tax cuts to the rich, cutting on subsidies, trying to end Obamacare and all of this is one thing. He was a man of the coal and oil lobby. He was a populist who disturbed the balance in politics, because when you are in politics, the last power of the people is to accuse their leaders well, you promised to do this, you didn't do this, you handled this badly. And his response all the time was, no, this is fake news, this is not true, fake news, you're fake, you're paid by someone else to tell me that I'm not doing my job right. And he wasn't accountable of his job. He blamed his faults on the opposition, which is ridiculous to me. When you are a political leader and you are elected and you are the president of a country, you are in charge, not the opposition. The opposition is there to speak against you and nothing more. You cannot blame the opposition for your own failures. You cannot say, well, I didn't do it right, but it's his fault. He started blaming, for example, the Democrats for COVID, even though it was his administration. He failed all his promises, and as a result, the people were angry and they voted against him. But instead of admitting his defeat, he spoke about fraud, and he had all this autistic tantrum going on for 2 months until he was booted out. So getting the man out and fighting the GOP, the establishment party, is a success on its own. A well-versed Marxist will tell me, yes, but the Democratic Party today, in 2021, is also a party for businesses, is also a party for capitalism. I'm not denying that. But as I said before with Pol Pot, you have to think strategically. There are no Marxists in the USA with big popular support. So you have two options in USA. Option one is Trump. Option two is Biden. You have to think, and you have to think who is better, who is more desirable. And by strategical thinking, Biden is much more desirable than Trump. His agenda is also because the GOP, that being the Republican Party, radicalized itself and went on the right. We have the Democratic Party that is also going to the left. We have people like we have 5 socialists in the House of Congress and 2 senators, and they are pressing the Democratic Party as well to adopt pro-worker legislation, increase the minimum wage, give a stimulus back to everyone, cut on military expenses, and go on with a universal healthcare. Some of this, of course, will not happen because the Democratic Party itself doesn't want to apply all of this, but they are forced to cooperate with the more radical Democrats in order to keep control of the situation. So always Biden was the correct choice for 2020.
I would have a question if I can.
Of course, go on.
So you say Biden is a better option from pragmatic point of view, but better for who? For Americans or for the rest of the world? Because you say we have 5 socialists in this Parliament of United States, but I don't think that we, as a Pole, you are a Greek, have this socialist, because there are people that are pro-war. There are people. Many wars were started in United States when Democratic was in rule. Many countries was involved, many victims, and I don't think that we have these people in this parliament. So I will say objections about your what you say.
I also want to say something that I can. I think that the biggest obstacle for the revolution in the world, it is United States. Every time when it is the revolution or the election and the socialist or left-wings can win, the United States organize the color revolution, putsch, and stuff like this. So I consider United States like my enemy, personal. And if we watch to the history of the Tsarist Russia, we have the Tsar Peter the Great. He was very intelligent, very good leader. He transformed Russia from the feudal states to the he started to build all this industry and modernize this country. And the last Tsar, Nicola II, he was idiot. And for the revolution, it is good when the leader of the big reactionary country is idiot. And I think that it was the 4 years that Trump was ruling the United States. It was very good for the world. Why? Firstly, because Trump destroyed all these diplomatic links in the Western countries. Before this, after Second World War, all the time United States and the Western countries were together against all the world. Trump destroyed this, and it is good for the people. That now the United States started to be isolated in the geopolitics. Other things. Of course, I am agree with you when you say that Biden is correct in the things for the United States citizens, but I don't know it is good if it is good for us. It is good for the global revolution. I think that these 4 years of the Trump when he was president, that there is more and more people unemployed, people more and more people homeless people who are living in the tent, more privatization, many people died because of COVID. It is very tragic situation for the American citizens, but it is good situation to the rest of the world, because we see that this American dream with Trump is over, because Trump it is idiot. And I can say also that in the geopolitics, when Trump he was president, he was not very aggressive toward Russia. Biden and Obama before, they are very aggressive against Russia. They want to organize this war using Ukraine and maybe Poland to make the war in the Eastern Europe. And I am against war and the party of war in United States. War in Europe, because Trump he wanted to make war against China, but for Europe it is Democratic Party which is very dangerous. I don't want to have war with Poland against Russia. And Biden started to be president of United States, and now we had very fragile situation between Ukraine and Russia, and
All right. You touched a lot of subjects, and so did Rafael. So I'll have to reply a lot now. First question was if Biden was good for Americans or all over the world. First and foremost, for the Americans, because it's their president. It is his policies and his rule that will affect them the most. So the first beneficiary are the American people. And Michal says that America is his primary enemy, and so on and so on. We say that we don't like America. The communists say they don't like America. Well, this is false. They don't like the government of America. They don't like the business of America. But we have nothing to dispute with the American people. The American people are our brothers. They have the largest working class in the Western world, the third largest proletarian population in the world after India, China, and India. They have 17 million industrial workers in the world, and they have very large trade unions, despite the attempts of President Trump to destroy the trade unions and not allow workers to unionize. And this is the largest victory, that now the trade unions are getting more of their say, and the government does not try to destroy them. There is absolutely, yes, under Trump, first of all, he's not an idiot. He's a businessman. I wouldn't say he's fairly intelligent either, but he's not stupid. He plays stupid. He has a team of very successful people surrounding him that guide his opinions and policies. He might speak like an idiot because he doesn't use the vocabulary and the intelligence of other political leaders, and he's not calm-headed like Obama. He's not charismatic, but he's still not someone who has below average IQ. Everything Trump did, he knew very well how to do it, and he knew very well what to achieve with his policies. So that's one thing. Now, if whether Trump or Biden benefits the world, well, as you will know from Marx's opinions and Marx's projections, the capitalist economy has united all the countries in the world. Something that happens in America, for example, the 2008 real estate crisis hit Europe, hit East Asia, and it hit the majority of the countries. And this is the cause of the Greek recession in 2011. The real estate crisis in America that hit Europe, especially Greece, because Greece used to overlend. In my opinion, obviously, Biden is going to help more because he is more responsible. He's in favor, for example, for free trade, better relations with Europe. He joined the Paris Accords, and he stands as a reliable partner that we can see and say, yes, this is the European countries must say, yeah, this is our ally. This is Biden. He's our ally. Trump spoke a lot. Trump is a man that speaks, and doesn't do half of what he says. He said, yeah, I will leave NATO. I want to pull out of NATO. I want to pull out of NAFTA. He didn't do any of this. He's just words, basically. If he used a more diplomatic way of saying, look, Poland, you must pay 2% of your economy, of your GDP in military, Poland will do it. But now he's like, no, I'm pulling out. You're not paying your fair share. Did he do it? Of course he didn't do it, because his advisors are clever. Even if he's stupid himself, his advisors are very clever. They wouldn't let him destroy the transatlantic alliance. So we have the reasons that Biden is better. Economic, for the American people. As you say, there are no more evictions. People do not lose their jobs, do not lose their homes. And this is a good thing. Trade unions and political parties have more freedom now. I don't see, some people are very short-minded. They think if we destroy America, suddenly there will be communism, there will be socialism. That's absolutely false. Some of the largest trade unions in the world that have participation members, millions of people, let's say they have the population of Slovakia. Trade unions in America are as big as the whole population of Slovakia. As I said, they have 17 million industrial workers. So I don't see how making the life miserable for the common people in America, the working class, will benefit our movement, if anything. Communism doesn't happen where you are hungry and you are poor. Feudalism in Europe lasted thousands of years. Slavery lasted tens of thousands of years. People were starving, people were poor, but there was no success. Yeah, they were raised up with pitchforks and the nobles slaughtered them. This will happen again. We don't need to make brainless revolutions every 5 years. We need to wait and make one successful attempt when the people will be enough educated. What happened with the French Revolution? Enlightenment. People were enlightened. People started reading more, and there was a new thought. The thought that we have to get rid of the monarchy. We have to start capitalism. We have to abolish the privilege of the nobility. Sure, suffering helps, but being educated helps more. The generations in Europe, hundreds and hundreds of years, were suffering, nothing happened. But the generation that was enlightened, it was educated, and it suffered even a little bit. It immediately, that generation started a revolution. Now you mentioned Russia. First of all, you said about the wars. No, it's not only the Democratic Party starting the wars. The Democratic Party did start the wars in Libya and Yugoslavia, for example, but the Republican Party started the wars in Somalia, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. Both parties are in favor of war. I'm not denying that. Both parties are capitalist. That's guaranteed. But we are picking the least evil here. And you mentioned Ukraine. Trump put heavy sanctions in Russia, actually. He increased the sanctions in Russia. As I say, Trump speaks a lot, but doesn't do any of what he says. He's a showman. He said we don't need to go to Syria. What happened? He bombed Syria twice. He said we should leave Afghanistan. What happened? He didn't leave Afghanistan. Now Biden left Afghanistan in this year on May, and all the American troops are going to pull out by September. Trump talks a lot, but does nothing of what he says. And a lot of people who do not follow American politics, they're like, yeah, I guess Trump is better because he doesn't start any wars. Well, he started wars. He bombed Iraq once. He killed the General Soleimani, Iranian general. He bombed Syria twice. He did the same in Yemen. He caused a humanitarian crisis in Yemen. He dropped more bombs in Afghanistan than Obama ever did. I'm not sure if he dropped more than Bush. I think Bush dropped more, but it doesn't matter. So he's not a man for peace. On the other hand, Biden didn't promise anything. He didn't say, I will bring peace. But at the same time, let's look on results. Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. Biden promised to end the war in Yemen. Biden wants to continue the nuclear plan with Iran, which Obama started. The promise that Iran will not get nuclear weapons and in America will end the embargo on Iranian goods and the West. Now, finally, you mentioned Russia. I'm very sorry I'm taking this long to reply, but you put a lot of questions. Finally, you mentioned Russia. Of course, we don't want war, but we don't want Russian imperialism in this area. Russia is a very dangerous country. It is the most imperialistic country, in my opinion. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, they have engaged in wars in Chechnya, Abkhazia, Ossetia, Donetsk and Crimea in Ukraine, as well as Transnistria in Moldova. They are a very aggressive power that exercises influence in Central Asia and East Europe. I am not in favor on meddling with Russian affairs. We shouldn't support nationalists like Navalny, who are the same with Putin. They're nationalists. They are not pacifist at all. But at the same time, we will not bend over to Russian imperialism. If Russia wants to come here and conquer our country, we are going to defend it. And we are not going to allow Gazprom and Lukoil to buy our country and exploit our resources like they're doing. Sadly, again, we have no option. We have American imperialism and we have Russian and Chinese imperialism. Again, we have no options, but we will go with the current system, and we are not going to risk going with Putin, who is an authoritarian oligarchic dictator. And finally, I want to remind you that Russia is the most unequal country in the world. 1% has the wealth of 74% in Russia. Compare that with 52% in America and 64% in India. Russia is the most unequal country. It is not our allies. They're not our allies. Again, as America, as Russia, there are a lot of proletarian people in America. There are a lot of proletarian people in Russia. I don't wish for war, and I don't wish any country to destroy itself. I wish for pacifism and peace all over the world, and I hope the proletarian will be able to live in prosperity and don't engage each other. Proletarians, as Marx said, do not fight each other. It is the American capital that fights the Russian capital, that fights the Chinese capital. We have nothing to separate with Russian people, with American people, with Chinese people. We have nothing to split. I'm against any war with Ukraine, but at the same time, I don't think we should accept Russian influence in Eastern Europe. Sorry for taking too long, but I had to engage on all your topics.
No, it's very good. You are the guest here, and we are here to ask you questions. Firstly, I would like to say something about this poverty. I am listen very often the lectures of Richard Wolff, and Richard Wolff many times repeated that he all these things which he said, which he write, he made these things from 1970s. From 1970s, 40 years his activity in the Marxist sphere, nobody care about this. It's change in the crisis 2008 2009 when the citizens of the United States starting to be more poor, and many good things change in United States. There was the Occupy movement. After there was the campaign of the Bernie Sanders, they starting to use the word socialism. First time after Second World War in United States, young people started openly said that they are socialists, they are Marxist. And for me, it is good that this crisis, economic crisis and poverty, changed the American society, and now they are speaking about the socialism. Of course, I am agree with you that I am not against American people. I am against American government. But you see, I am for the justice, justice, because all the time American corporation, all the time American army go to every country in the world and say you have to make free market, you have to allow the corporation from the United States don't pay taxes, and they promote free market in every country on the world, but in United States and also in Western Europe, you have many people which are not free market. You have the subsidies for the agriculture. You have a little social benefits and stuff like this. So I don't know why I have to accept situation when the billions of people in the global south, they are hungry, they are starving. Only in this year, in the pandemic, the quality, the people who was starving, rising from 1 billion people to 2 billion people. 2 billion people in the world, they don't eat
Sufficiently, yeah, that's correct.
yes, sufficiently. And if American society all the time they believed in the free market, I only want to give them. You want to free market? Make free market in your country. Make free market in Texas. In Texas, you have free market of electricity. You have free market of the water supplies. And in last month, when they was the winter storm in Texas, people are have a lot of problems because of this. They knew what is free market in practice. Okay, I want to say something about Russia, but maybe later.
Well, yeah, that's how you say it. You're absolutely correct. And this is, of course, not the fault of the American people. In the previous decade, we had a multipolar world. We didn't have a unipolar world right now, that America is doing whatever they want after the collapse of the Soviet Union. In the previous century, we had a multipolar world. We had the multiple empires. We had the British, the French, the German, the Italian, the Japanese, the Russian, the Austrian Empire to some extent. And all these empires, what they did is try to open the markets of other countries. We saw that in China, we saw that in Japan, we saw that all over the world, and of course in the colonial possessions. What is America doing today is nothing different than the French were doing and the British were doing in India, for example. In China, they went there and say you will have open market. Does it bother us? Of course, we don't want to have this, but at the same time, we didn't wish for Britain or France to destroy itself. that would not be beneficial for anyone. Britain lost its colonial empire. Are they communist now? They're not communist. They're far away from being communist. They're the most privatized nation in the world. So I don't think what will benefit if we went head on and say, let's destroy America. On the contrary, I think we should help America. And I believe there is a very strong grassroots movement in America that is working class. And at the same time, there are a lot of people that now identify as socialists or even communists, Marxists, and so on. This was a taboo topic in America because of the Red Scare and the anti-communist propaganda. People were imprisoned and put on blacklist under McCarthyism. Often we hear about violations of human rights in Eastern Europe and under communism. A lot of people say yes, there was no free speech in communism. People were in prison, but at the same time they forget that in America, if you were a communist, you would be put in blacklist, or even worse, you would be arrested and put in prison, lose your job. This was active in a big portion of American existence. Yet today we can see a lot of people say openly that they're communists and nothing is happening to them. The people are more open to this. The young generation is more open to this. And this is where, again, we are discussing how education is important and not just violence. If you're violent, it will work, but you must be violent with ideology. You must be violent with reason. You must be ready to replace the existing economical system with a new one, rather than perpetuate the exact current economic forces, right? I am very positive that the American people are so lowly educating themselves. And even though most Americans don't understand the concepts of Marxism and socialism, the fact that only that a big portion of them was able to get a democratic socialist like Bernie Sanders to be the second most popular Democrat in the United States in 2016 and 2020 tells us a lot. It tells us that the American left wants change. They don't want to be stuck in the two-party system, liberalism and conservatism. They want to see a social democracy. Some people, and other people want to see true socialism and the nationalization of the American economy. And for me, this is very revolutionary and a big change from the old America we knew that was very conservative and capitalist and wouldn't listen anything about socialism, right?
Yes and no, but maybe because you know the problem is that I am not against to give political support for the people who call themselves socialist. For example, in the Bolivia, where you have movement
Morales.
for the social.
Morales?
Yeah,
Alvin Morales?
Morales. Now it is other guy.
Right.
Ochoa, I think his name is.
Yes.
So so it is movement towards socialism. In Peru is also the election, and in the second round it is guy very radical left. So if somebody say I want to build socialism, I want to make this or that, I am not somebody. I am not reformist, but in this special occasion, I can support reformist. But I can't understand why I have to support liberal like Biden, and I don't want to participate in all this discussion in which things Biden are better, in which things Trump are better. For me, it is not important, because for me, Biden and Trump, this is the represent the American oligarchy. This is my enemy. And for me, I don't care who win, because in every situation, nothing changed to me. About Russia, I would like to say that my position to Russia is position Leninist. Leninist in the time of the First World War. In the time of the First World War, Lenin said the biggest enemy for him, for Lenin, for the Bolshevik party, it was the Russian government. In the time of war, he said that the biggest enemy for him, it is the Russian government, because it is the Russian government who exploit the workers in Russia. And for me, the biggest enemy, it is my government in Poland, but also Union European government, Commission European, and also NATO. And when I take this perspective, I can agree with you about Russia, that Russia is the biggest, is the oligarchic state, that Putin is the dictator, but that this is police state. I can agree with this, but it's not change that Russia is there and I am here. And I can say that existing of Russia and all this rivalization between the competition between the imperialist states like Union European and Russia, the left in here can profit. I can give example of the Yellow West movement, when the media from the France, they boycotted, they lied every time when they speak something about the Yellow West movement, they lie. It was the lies. And the Russian TV and Sputnik, they participated in the demonstration. They making live. They invite to this television the people from the street. They can say nobody censor them. And also we can take an example of Edward Snowden. You see, the Assange don't have this possibility to escape to Russia, and now he will die in the prison in the United States or in Great Britain. So I think that it is not good for the Marxists in Europe to concentrate, to criticize the imperialists in other countries. We have to concentrate to criticize our own bourgeoisie. And in this, when you say that the Russia is the most imperialist countries, I think that we have to see how many dollars which country spent to the army. The United States sells.
Yeah, they overspend Russia by 10-1 margin.
Yes. So it is ridiculous when you say that the Russia is the most imperialist country.
All right. You spoke about what was your first topic? You spoke about Russia and about the Les Ilettes zone and the media covered. Actually, I know a story myself. I had a person who I followed, and he was arrested by the police, and they say they brutalized him. And the Greek media, most of the Greek media didn't cover it because they were pro-government. And who covered it? Russian news. So this is absolutely true. And the opposite is happening in Russia because there is a lot of police violence in Russia and anti-Putin sentiment. The Communist Party in Russia has won twice the elections, but they didn't form a government because all other capitalist parties united against them. And today, all opposition to Putin is sadly very controlled and not a real threat to his rule. So when there is a major protest in Russia, when there is police brutality, the European news covers the Russian police violence. And now when there is police violence in Europe, Russia goes and covers it. It is quite sad to see this because private media can pick whatever news they have to cover. And there is no challenge or checks. This is why I believe that we must have public media paid by the people and to cover real news that people want and not news that the private media wants to show, right? This is why it is instrumental to have free public television that is unbiased and would cover both scenarios. Russia is trying to undermine Europe, and Europe would much like to undermine Russia for their own interests. Personally, I'm Greek. My enemy, as you said, I agree 200%. I agree with you. As Lenin said, his enemy is Russia. My enemy is the Greek bourgeoisie. I might disagree on how we are going to fight the Greek bourgeoisie and how you will fight the Polish bourgeoisie, but this is my focus. I fight for my rights and my agenda in Greece and in Europe, but at the same time, I have no intent to glorify any foreign dictator or seek his protection. If we are going to be independent and sovereign as a people in Europe and in our respective countries, we must be completely independent without influence from Russia or America or China or whoever. I will not trade a leader in Washington for a leader in Moscow. This is my point of view. Of course, America, as we said, overspends Russia in military expenditure, but America engages in imperialism in third world countries, but Russia is more imperialistic because they engage around Europe. Georgia, Ukraine, Moldova, these are in our neighborhood, these countries. So for me, I am more scared about Russian imperialism than American imperialism. And even though I'm against both systems, they are both capitalist systems, at least the European system has, as you said, social welfare, free speech, and doesn't allow the oppression the Russian oligarchic system allows, obviously. But other than that, as I said, I'm not going to pick ruler. I want to be sovereign in my country. I don't want a ruler in Washington or Moscow, of course. I'm not sure if I missed any other topic.
Yes, so I would to
I'm
ask
also something final. I'm also a big fan of. Oh yes, we said about the elections in America. We said both parties are capitalist and both parties are against socialism. Very true, very correct. And both parties are in favor of war as well. The only difference is that, as Marx said, is that the big countries like America and Britain that have strong liberal traditions could actually reform themselves and could reform themselves as in opposition of countries like Russia that only change could happen with revolution. Of course, we had the 2011 Occupy Wall Street, and we have Bernians, all these politicians, AOC. I don't think that America will be socialist tomorrow, but as I said, the new generation and the millennial generation is going to bring some change through the good side. And lastly, we spoke about protectionism and free trade. When asked in Frankfurt, in the conference on Frankfurt, Marx said that if we have to choose between protectionism and free trade, we have to choose free trade because free trade destabilizes the national barriers of a country and forwards internationalism and destroys the national bourgeoisie and forces them to compete in the global market. So in that case, if we have to choose between protectionism and free market, we, as Marxists, we are choosing free trade in such a case. You may speak now. Sorry for taking too long again.
Okay, I would like to ask you about China because all the time you speak Russian and Chinese imperialism. And okay, I can agree with you that Russia is the oligarchic state, and they are big difference between the top of rich and the bottom of the poor Russians. But in China, we have totally different situation. In the last 25 years, 800 million people was lifted from poverty. And also we have other good things like the all these things with the COVID-19, how China managed this. So I don't understand why you are against China.
I don't think I'm against China at all. I am not stupid. First of all, I understand that the system in China is a market economy. It is a mixed system that has both some capitalism and some socialist aspects. I applaud China for its great achievement to pull millions of people out of poverty. I understand that the Marxists are criticizing China for going in Africa and indebting these countries, but at the same time, they're helping them economically and giving them loans and trading with them since America abandoned these countries. So I'm not totally against China. I would like to see a very strong China. I will strongly cherish if China surpasses the United States as the world's largest economy by 2027. I applaud them on their economical success, although I criticize them on working rights and way too open market. I want to personally believe in China, although I have my own fears. I fear that China is maybe lying and trying to transition to capitalism and becoming imperialist state. But if they are truthful, I'm giving them time, and I want to hope that they are truthful and they will build socialism in East Asia. They will assert themselves as independent and as a force to fight America. In which case, of course, I will not support either America or Russia. I will critically support China, and I hope that they assert themselves in East Asia, but not in an imperialist way, that they are going to become the new exploiters, right, like Russia in Central Asia, but as a liberating force that will help the countries in exchange of mutual assistance and aid between these countries. I want to hope that China will become fully socialist by 2049. And I want to hope that the success China has will continue. China, unlike Russia, for example, or America, hasn't started any wars in the past years. They are very peaceful. In fact, America in World War II, when trying to produce anti-Japanese propaganda and defending the national government in China, said that China is a country that for 1,000 years, there were no wars. And this is absolutely correctly. The Chinese people are very wise, and this is why they are superior to the Soviet people, because the Soviet people used brutal force and they spend it on military. They're like, we have the largest military in the world. We will do whatever we want. We have nuclear weapons. And Americans said, very well, we have our nuclear weapons and we have our allies in Europe, and together we are equal on military spending. America and Europe, and the Soviet Union on the other hand. China, on the other hand, doesn't do that. They don't overspend on their military. They have the second largest, of course, military, but they don't overspend like America or Russia. They are balancing it out. They use soft force. For example, India, Australia, Japan, and America, and the United Kingdom tried to make a coalition against China, an alliance against China, basically East Asia NATO. And China didn't go to threaten them or deploy troops. Instead, they say, we'll stop trading with you. We'll fight other trading partners. And what happened? Australia, the same day, withdrew from the alliance, and then Japan. China is using their soft power. They're using their economic power. They're ready to negotiate, be on the peace table. And the reason, for example, that America and North Korea didn't go on a hot scenario is because China stood on the table, put Kim Jong-un and Trump together, and said, you have to stop provoking each other, and we want peace and stability in the area. At the same time, I criticize China for not protecting the republic in Myanmar and not trying to embargo the military junta in Myanmar that is right now violating freedoms and the constitution, and even murdering protesters and people. So China, of course, is not infallible. They are doing a lot of mistakes, of course, but I congratulate them on their success, and I hope that they will continue to be a strong rival to America. As a European myself, I am hoping in a European socialist revolution, And I'm hoping that we become the third, what I call the third global power, able to compete with both America and Russia, maintain our economic strength, and start isolate Russia, and at the same time try to pacify them and compete with America and China with the largest economy, and at the same time help other world unions such as the African Union and Latin American states that are suffering with poverty, which you mentioned 2 billion people do not have adequate food to live. Of course, we must fix these issues, and they will come on stably, slowly, as socialists want to make a meaningful change, build strong economies in Africa, rather than give them capitalist charity for a few years and say, yeah, here's some economic aid. And in the end, this economic aid doesn't even go to people. Dictators in Africa and terrorist groups steal all the economic aid instead of going to the people of Africa. This is my point of view.
Could you say something about the socialist revolution in Europe? I am interested how you want to do it, with who you want to do it, and if one day after this revolution, Europe will be socialist country or market socialist country, state capitalist, and how you see these processes.
Ideally, I dream of a European federation that will be a socialist, Marxist, and will have a nationalized economy, while at the same time, before completely nationalizing, will trade with other nations and aid other nations. I think it is fundamental that we can no longer have socialism only in Greece or socialism only in Poland. Since our economies are integrated together, we live in an area of complete free trade and complete free movement. I believe that in the following years, national barriers will keep disintegrating, and our people will unite more. And I believe that at that time there is what we call in Europe the blue banana. The blue banana that has a very funny name is an area that has the shape of banana, starting from London down to Paris, in all of Belgium, West Germany, the industrial area of the Rhine, and goes down to North Italy and the cities of Milan, Torino, and Genoa, the industrial areas. This blue banana is the heartland of Europe, and together produces a big amount of the world's capital and economy. If we are able to start a strong communist movements there and trade unions, and force these people to go on a riot and go on a protest, go on a strike, the European economy and the world's economy is going to paralyze within 2 weeks. This area has such strong power that it will be able to paralyze the European economy. I repeat again, this is the blue banana, London, Paris, Cologne, like all the West Germany and North Italy, Torino, Milano, Genoa. I think this will be the heartland of Europe. And if for example, France, Germany, and Italy, that are the largest economies in Europe, become socialist, so will Greece and so will Poland, because our economy is based on their bigger economies. We are directly linked. This is what Marx described as the next stage of capitalism, that everything becomes international, and change in Poland means change for Greece and vice versa. Ideally, we will translate immediately to socialism and try to do what China is doing, building market socialism and then going on full Marxist-Leninism.
Okay, could you say what do you think about Yanis Varoufakis and things which he write, and also about his organization in Greece?
Yes, Yanis Varoufakis is a very, very intelligent economist. He is endorsed by all intellectuals around the world, including Slavoj Zizek and see. Yeah. Movement 25 in Europe. Anyway, he's endorsed by all the intellectuals in the world, such as I said, Slavoj Zizek. You mentioned Julian Assange, I believe. He also endorsed Varoufakis and Chomsky. Yeah, Chomsky. Chomsky also endorsed Varoufakis. I believe he's a very intelligent man, an economist. We were talking about it last time. He led the Greek negotiations again in the European Union, trying to. He was a very open-minded man. He asserted the Greek positions that Greece is not going to enforce harsh austerity like the European Union wanted. And at the same time, Greece is not going to break complete relations with the European Union. He was very intelligent man. He wanted to end austerity, but also protect our way of life. Right now, he formed. Sadly, this didn't work because of some political members inside Syriza. Syriza, as you know, is the radical anti-capitalist left alliance, but they have a lot of factions. It ranges from Maoists to social democrats and social liberals. So it's a very universal group, a very diverse group. So a lot of people didn't like Yanis Varoufakis because he wasn't a politician, he wasn't a member of establishment. He was just an economist who was assigned the position of Minister of Economics. Fast forwarding today, Yanis Varoufakis, starting in 2019 European and Greek elections, he made his own party, Movement in Europe 25. In Greece, we call it Day 25. And he managed to join the Greek parliament. I didn't vote for him in Greek in European elections, but I pity that I didn't vote him in European elections because he was only 700 votes away from electing a European member of parliament. Only 700 votes. It is incredible that he didn't manage to do it. So I pity not having supported him because even though I might not agree, let's say 100%, I think that his voice should be heard in the European Parliament. So I pity my decision not to vote for him in the European Parliament. In the Greek Parliament, again, I didn't vote for him, but it doesn't matter because he managed to win. Recently, I heard some of his speeches against capitalism and how the one speech was in English. He was speaking against capitalism, and in the other speeches he made, it was in Greek. And he was explaining his party and his policies. I want to say that he's a very ambitious party. They have some very good policies. And even though they're not, let's say, ideologically Marxist-Leninist, and hardline ideologically, I would like to see them having the chance to propose their own policies as opposed to only the right wing in Greece, the Social Democrats and Syriza passing through their policies and ideas. I want to see smaller parties led by intellectuals and technocrats, and as I said, people with experience to be able to do exactly the same and forward their ideas, right? So I want to see Varoufakis in action, and I want to, and I hope he succeeds, so we can see something different than the traditional two-party system in Greece.
I would like to say that I read or I listened audiobook with one of the book of the Yanis Varoufakis, talking to economy with my daughter or something like this. And it was good stuff for presenting shortly the Marxist economy history of the Marxist thought is very good. So I started to listen the lectures of Yanis Varoufakis, and there are things which I can agree. But the problem for me is that in Poland he make a coalition with the Social Democratic Party, which name is Razem. It is Together in English. and for me, these people are disgusting. This coalition people who collaborate with Varoufakis in Poland. They are fanatic anti-communist. They are they are Russophobe. They are all the time pro-NATO, pro-Union. So it is my problem. So tell me, how many time do you have? Do you have time?
Yeah. If you can do, we can continue for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, and then I will
Okay.
call it a night because it's already dark outside. Actually, allow me to turn off my lights so I can be visible.
Okay, so Comrade Rafa or guest from the chat, if you want to ask
I
question.
will have question.
Okay, so
Because
wait
this
for
people from the
Comrade.
chat says I am silent, so I will tell something. I have questions, so I have two questions for you, and I will go but I will be listen. So my first question is what do you think about fact that in Poland people who thinks NATO is a good thing is like 60% of population are in favor of NATO, but in Greece it is 30% of population. And what common people in Greece thinks about NATO? What do you think about NATO? And my second question is because here in Poland once was one communist, he was Trotskyist. And I have question about this. That what do it looks in Greece? That there are two parties, as I think, Stalinist and Trotskyist, and what are the relation between these two parties? Do they talk? Do they want to cooperate? But they think about each other like as enemy. Sorry for my English, but there is my two questions for you, and I will go. But why I will be listening your answers. Thank you.
All right, thanks for asking. You mentioned the Polish opinion on NATO. Did your friend leave? I cannot hear you. You are muted. You mute yourself.
He went, but he will listen you after.
Oh, he will listen on live. Okay. Sorry, on replay. All right. The first question was the Polish opinion on NATO. I am very well aware that the Polish people, although they vote for right-wing parties, they vote for populist parties, they are and they have taken, let's say, an authoritarian turn. They are very much in favor of the European Union and on NATO. The first thing for me is not a bad thing, because on NATO, on the other hand, I'm totally against NATO because I believe that NATO is an imperialist alliance that is not only for defense, but it is used for aggressive warfare. And I also believe that today, in 2021, there is no Warsaw Pact, there is no Soviet Union that is threatening, let's say, Europe. There is no need to have NATO. The only reason that I would like actually Greece to leave NATO immediately if it was possible, but the only reason I oppose this is because of Turkey. Turkey is a NATO member, and if Greece left alone NATO without any other country following, Turkey might found this opportunity to provoke Greece into a conflict. So as long as NATO exists, as long as Turkey is in NATO, I don't want Greece to leave NATO unless other countries leave in the European Union and guarantee our peaceful relations. If both in 1952, with the enlargement of NATO, both Greece and Turkey were accepting NATO. I think we entered together, we live together, because we have, let's say, not the best relations around. So if Turkey is going to leave tomorrow, Greece can leave the next morning. No problem. We live together. But now on Poland, I think it's very understandable because the Polish people are very much Russophobic, as you said. Not the majority, at least, of the people are against Russia and they fear Russia involvement into Europe. As I said, I don't want any Russian involvement into European Union, in the European Union. But at the same time, I do not fear Russia. I don't go to bed every day thinking that Russia is going to invade us and take our country or anything. I'm not paranoid like these people that think that Putin will conquer everything and invade into Europe. If Russia is very strong militarily right now, but Europe together could very much respond. This is why I want the abolition of NATO and the replacement with a European army that will be independent from American influence. I guess I understand why Poland is pro-NATO. This is because of their poor relations with Russia. Furthermore, I will reply now to Michal's question because he said that Varoufakis allied himself with the Together movement in Poland. This is called a European alliance, and members can participate from all over Europe. Some members disagree with each other, but participate for strategical reasons if they have a common agenda. I hope that the Together Party, even though it's disgustingly anti-communist and let's say has a way too much Russophobic stance, that at least agrees economically with Yanis Varoufakis, and they're not capitalistic. I don't think Yanis Varoufakis had any choice on this. He was put in that condition based on, as I said, the European broad alliance that happened in the parliament. Now, on your second question of Rafal, you asked on Trotskyism. I believe it's very silly for Trotskyists and Stalinists to fight in 2021, since neither Trotskyism or Stalinism is, let's say, relevant today. You cannot go together today and have a permanent revolution, and you cannot today make socialism in one country. These policies are defunct by today. So even though I disagree on Trotskyism because I think in 1930 Stalin was right and Lenin was right, we cannot today be bitter enemies and fight each other. What happened 80 years ago? How is it possible for capitalists to unite even though they have a lot of different opinions? But Marxists that agree 99% with each other scream and shout at each other when they agree on minor issues. It is completely idiotic, in my opinion, and doesn't help the working class or our movements. We should cherish our differences, and we should stop screaming at each other, calling people revisionistic, reformist, dogmatic, and all these taboo words and buzzwords instead of engaging on dialectical discussion. A lot of people, for example, criticize me for my support on Biden, even though they agree with me 99%. In my opinion, as I said, Biden will do good to America and will do better in the world than Trump. This is my own opinion. You might disagree with me, it's your right. But we cannot call each other revisionistic or dogmatic because we disagree on a very minor issue that is not even part of socialism. It's just foreign policy and diplomacy, right? So, to reply on Comrade Rafal here, who asked about the Trotskyism movement in Greece and Poland. In Greece, we have the Trotskyist Party. It's a very minor party, doesn't have a lot of support, because in Greece, only the Communist Party is a strong Communist Party with representation in the parliament. Maoists, Trotskyists, Hodzaists, and all these minor parties also exist, but they have never managed to elect a member in the parliament. I would like to sit down with all these parties, for example, and make a broader Marxist coalition. It is completely idiotic to, as I said, disagree on 1930s issues. We live in 2020, and we must draft a our plan for 2020 using Marxist ideology first and foremost, and secondly, pragmatism and strategy. We cannot only use, as I said, violence. We cannot go against the stream. NATO was a very good question, for example. We want to leave NATO, of course, but we cannot leave tomorrow morning because Turkey might invade us, for example. We must think with critical thought. The Trotskyist movements in Greece were fairly popular, I would say, but they were never as popular as Maoist movements or Hoxhaist and Stalinist movements in Greece. There were Maoist movement, for example, in the 1960s in Greece and 1970s was very popular and even threatened the Communist Party of Greece. That's why they deleted some of their members. They removed them from the party, which I strongly condemn, and I wish the Communist Party apologizes on that, because the Communist Party of Greece at that time was Khrushchevite and Brezhnevite. It didn't follow Marxism-Leninism and Lenin and Stalin, as did all European parties. So the Trotskyists were never fairly popular in Greece. The big shame towards Trotskyism, and this is why we call Trotskyists fascists all over Europe, is because they didn't seem to collaborate sometimes with the right wing and far right wing just to oppose Marxism, Leninism, and Stalinism. Sometimes they hate Stalinism more than they hate the right wing and fascism. This is very sad towards the movement, and it is a complete shame for someone who says he is Trotskyist. I believe that they act in a way of sabotage to destroy what we are trying to build, the Marxist-Leninists. I have no problem on sitting down and discussing with a Trotskyist, but I will not tolerate sabotaging our movement, of course. At the same time, I watched l'Aveu, the movie from Costa Gavras, The Confession, and it showed the Stalinist purges in Czechoslovakia. And I don't think we need to repeat the same again. We don't need to call people Trotskyists, Titoists, and fight with each other. We need left unity, and especially Marxist unity. If we disagree on minor issues, it should be solved democratically, I believe, as long as it doesn't contradict on the core ideology of Marxism and its principles. This is why we cannot ally with anarchists, for example, because anarchists do not agree with Marxism or socialism. They want to abolish the state entirely. We disagree with this, so we will never ally with them and become one movement. If they wish to unite with us to bring down capitalism, that's acceptable, but it stops there. But between other Marxists, it's idiotic to fight each other and call each other names, I believe. I hope I replied to your question. And and finally, for Comrade Rafal that will listen us on replay, it was a great shame that the Trotskyist party even collaborated with right-wing paramilitaries during the civil war in Greece. It's a great shame that this happened, and they chose to betray socialism and in favor of collaborating with the Greek state. So that's my opposition to Trotskyism. Today, Trotskyism is not very popular at all in Greece, actually. It's just a minor party.
I can say that when you say that Trotskyists sometimes they hate more Stalin than bourgeoisie, I can say that in Poland it's always. They always hate more Stalinists, or me personally, they hate me more than the richest people in the Poland. So I think that the people who engage in this movement, the old one, because I don't have problem with young one who with this all this anti-communist propaganda against Soviet Union. They think, okay, Stalin is dictator, so I will find something which is Marxist socialism, but not Stalinist. I can work with the young, because young are. It's hope that they will change. I also personally was a Trotskyist many years, because I became active in political movement in the time of the war in Yugoslavia in 1999. And in this time I was in the Trotskyist organization, and also when you said that they are the people who all the time use these words revisionist, reformist, very sectarian.
Dogmatic, yeah. Sectarian,
Yes,
dogmatic, yeah.
I can say that I was person like this, the most sectarian communist in Poland. It was me that everybody said you are not true
Yeah, yeah.
Marxist. It's only me. But now I am different person, not because I changed my view. I only want. I starting to be old, and I want to build the movement. And if I want to build a movement, we have to collaborate with people who we don't agree each other in 100% in everything. Because if I want only people who are there are not people like this didn't exist. There are always difference. So these things which you said, that Marxists can always discuss and trying to find a way to collaborate, but not anarchist. I am
Of
totally
course,
agree.
not anarchist, yeah.
But I think that for Poland it is a little naive that this hatred against each other is very, very strong. And in January we started to building the Polish Workers' Party, and I wrote the manifest of this party. It was I think that it was very good text, 50 pages about how to fight with the capitalism, and many people answered for this. It is good, and we meet together, and 2 months everybody fighting with everybody.
Yes, actually, I was like this as well. I suppose it's a phase every Marxist goes through, that wants to believes that he's the only true Marxist and everyone around him are fake Marxists. We should stop behaving like this. I think as we go mature, we realize this. And unironically, the first organization that I fell into was a Trotskyist organization. I didn't know about this. I wasn't Trotskyist, but it was the first one that I fell into. Although my first readings on Marxism was actually Trotsky and Lenin, not Stalin and Marx, of course. But anyway, back then I was not Trotskyist, and I went to that organization, and I introduced myself, and they were very friendly. They wanted new members. And what I found out that they're very Trotskyist, and they say that there was no socialism in the Soviet Union ever, and it was state capitalist, and Stalin was bad, and Ceausescu was bad. I was like, I don't care about Ceausescu. Tell me about Stalin. Yeah, Stalin never built socialism. Say good day, have a nice day, goodbye, and I never went again. So these people just wanted to fish supporters and money, and to buy their magazines and support their party economically. So I never went again because I disagree with that. I will not support, of course, any Trotskyists. But if we must make a united, broad coalition and all voices be heard, and we do not disagree on the core values of Marxism, that's fine as it stands. I don't think we need to bicker about what happened in the 30s. I think. Of course, some Stalinists don't want to cooperate with Trotskyists, but I think it's mostly the Trotskyists that don't want to cooperate with us because they are very butthurt about what happened in the 30s, and that the Russian people picked Stalin over Kamenev or Zinoviev. But other than that, as I said, we cannot build socialism in one country today. We cannot have permanent revolution today. So we need to unite. There is nothing dividing us ideologically. The only thing that divides us is history and all this absurd animosity that there is no other reason for it today, I believe. But of course, we cannot collaborate with anarchists, as I said, because they are in their own world. The only thing that I would agree with them and we could unite fighting is to destroy the capitalist system together.
I think that with Trotskyists today, there are other problems. The Trotskyists which I knew in Poland, They are more interesting about the so-called identity politics, the participation in the LGBT movements and stuff like this. And it is not the position of Trotsky who speak about the worker class, working class. Today, Trotsky is in Poland. It is in students who are they very they prefer they much more often use the rainbow flag than the red flag, and they don't want to singing international, for example, because they say it is Stalinist song. It was singing in Soviet Union, and they to try to build the new left, modern left and it is the biggest problem that today Trotskyists, most of them, they are not communist.
That's quite sad. I don't get me wrong. I support, of course, women rights, LGBT rights, racial minority rights. But our first target is to benefit the working class, the oppressed class. And with the working class, all other oppressed classes in the world will also free themselves. Our primary target should be the working class. We must, of course, not be class reductionist and only think like this, but our primary goal should be the proletariat, especially the industrial proletariat, since we're in Europe, and the salariat. And identity politics should not divide us. And we must understand that if you want to help the LGBT community, if you want to help and let's say violence towards women, it can only happen with a socialist movement that will help all oppressed classes, and first and foremost the proletariat. This is my opinion.
I can say something about my work that I am working in the frozen house, frozen warehouse near the Paris, and now we have Ramadan. It's in all the world, and I think that half of the people who work in my place they are Muslim. They practice they make Ramadan now. And you see that in the salle de pause, they make, they praying, they are together, they take a music religious, and when you want to go there with the rainbow flag and speak about this identity politics, the discussion is over, and it is why the French left is totally disconnected from the working class today, who came from Africa, this emigration. And when you go to the meeting of the French Trotskyists, you will see that most of them, there are white, there are the people who are working like a teacher, and there are very, very little people who from working class emigrated from Africa with a background of Islam countries. So it is so this is two different worlds. That one thing, it is Trotskyists who say we are Marxist, we want the liberating working class, but not working class which existed, but working class which they think that existed. But these people who work in the most strategic sectors, very often this the immigrant, which totally other thinking with these religions, with the culture from their countries, and it's very, very difficult to I see this. Okay, comrades. So I think that link to your channel is in description for everybody who wants to see the Comrade Hellas, knows better about Greek, learn Greek language, because half of your movie is in Greek. So difficult language, I think.
I'd say that well, we are very different languages.
Alphabet is different.
Alphabet, yes. I believe that our languages are very different because the Polish language is full of consonants. Do you know the word consonant, right?
Yes.
It's the same in French.
A, E, U, I.
No. W, M. Yeah. The second one, yeah. Polish is like this, while Greece is vowels, as you said. So we are very different in that aspect. I cannot pronounce most Polish words because they have a lot of consonants, and I think you will struggle with the Greek words because they have a lot of vowels. So that's quite funny. Most of my videos, I'd say it's a mix, but I think most are in English, but some of them are in Greek for my Greek viewers because I have a lot of Greek viewers, of course, who watch me and support me. The Greek left is very strong. So half of my videos are in Greek, let's say. Well, a bit less, but yeah. Thank you for having me today. It was I had a good time discussing with you, and I hope we repeat it in some other time. I will be more than happy to come again and discuss with you, or you can come to my channel or whatever. It was quite an enjoyment today. And that's about it.
Yes, I agree with you that we have to repeat it.
Yes, absolutely. We can message each other again. Now, on a more relaxed attitude, do you watch football, for example?
I was a player.
Oh, you were a player?
Yes, when I have 13, 15, 16 years.
Okay.
But I finished my career to politics, to become Trotskyist.
What position did you used to play?
In milieu or in attack or defense.
Okay.
No, I was polyvalent in every position.
Oh, so you played all positions. Okay.
Yes. I continue football. I played also here in France sometimes. So all the time I am.
But are you associated with some club?
No. I was a member of the professional club. It was Robotniczy Klub Sportowy Marymont Warszawa. It was in socialist Poland. We have the tradition that every club was associated with the working
job, working department.
Yes. So my club was workers' club. The other was from the soldiers or militia or railway workers or stuff like this.
Yeah. I know this from especially Russia. They have CSKA, the CSKA Moscow. It was the army. Dynamo was the secret police. Lokomotiv was the railways,
yes.
And Spartak was the meat workers, but it had a broad amount of more working class people. So it was about the same, I guess, I suppose, in Poland. Yours was Robotnik, you said?
Yes, Robotniczy Klub Sportowy, RKS.
Was it about what was your the trade of that sports club?
What was what?
Like the trade, their job, the primary job of the people playing on it.
No, you see, I was playing football in 1990s, and it was catastrophic.
Yeah, but under communism, I mean, like, what was the trade?
I don't know. You see, it is. It was. I think that in Poland, it worked only in the first 20 years, maybe. In 1970s and 1980s, Polish football started to have a little capitalist. For example, Zbigniew Boniek. He was he played in Juventus Turin. and he win Champions League with Juventus, and they started to this commercialization of the Polish sport. It started before Contrrevolution, but it was only for the because in the beginning the somebody who played football earned the exact money that somebody who worked was no difference. But after they started, you are good. Listen, for example, when you are in army, if you are in army, you will play it for Legia. Legia is in Warsaw.
Yeah.
So so Legia profited that they can take everybody
the
from
best players,
the best players, and say, and if somebody say, no, I hate Warsaw, I am living in Silesia. You hate Warsaw, okay, so we will find you a task in army very, very ugly.
Understandable.
But it was beginning of the socialist Poland. After they started to commercialize, and also in 1970s, Polish have a success in the Polish sport. In 74 and 82, two times Poland was third in the World Cup. Polish team, and also in 72 Polish has a second in Olympiad in Munich was second. So third country in the world, it is something big. But I was in the 1990s. It was the catastrophe of the Polish football, because you have the many of these football clubs, they bankrupt.
Okay.
And the new schools for the young footballers, they starting to build later. And when I was I was playing, it was our trainers was old footballers, alcoholic, drunk, because when you go to Barcelona, for example, you can take a child who have no talent, hate football, but with good teacher, good trainer, they can make that after the school of Barcelona or Real Madrid, you can become very good footballer. In Polish, they don't teach it. They only make a selection. You have to teach the football, how to play football outside, and when see that you are good, okay, we invite you. But they don't teach, and it was in 1990s. It was catastrophe, and it was the time in Poland that all economy was in catastrophe. Every week they shut down the factories. Was a big unemployment, big recession, inflation, and it was not good time for because Lewandowski, for example, I think that you know him. He's younger than me, and he was a chance that he started his career a little later, and in the other situation. But all these Polish people, Polish footballers who are playing for the national team, 100% of them, they are playing outside the Poland, because the Polish league is
it's in
very
bad
weak.
shape, I know. Yeah. Well, as the man behind you, Che Guevara, said that the revolution starts on football pitch. He was in favor of football and the beauty of the sport. So was Maradona, who was also a socialist. But sadly, football becomes slowly more capitalistic, of course, and profit-oriented. In the 60s, in the 50s, as you said, not only in socialism but also in capitalism, footballers did not get paid much, and they didn't have permanent employment. So there was a man who liked to date a girl, and he was a footballer. Today, you say you're a footballer, and a woman make a line to get you. But in this time, being footballer was something very fluid, non-stable, and of course, let's say they didn't make a lot of money, and also it was very fluid. Maybe in 10 years you wouldn't have a job. So he said he was a plumber to get a woman. And today plumbers are, of course, the bottom of the society. They don't make any money, and footballers make millions per year. So we see how, if not per month, we see how football changed drastically on being a working class sport to be super commercialized and very capitalistic and entrepreneur sport. But I still like the beauty of the game, the loyalty of supporting one club, and all the beauty on that, even though I might not agree completely with commercialization.
You know that in place where I am living, they are football. It is religion for the young people. All these young immigrant, it's not official, but the states say.
Do you live in the Le Bagnelia?
Oui, banlieue. I live in Val-de-Marne. So you have the trois department outside the Paris. I am living in the southeastern, and you know, France now is a very, very strong team. It's champion of the world.
World champions, yeah. World champions.
Yes, and you can see this in these stadiums. There are a lot of stadiums in my neighborhood, and all the time they are people, especially black, who are playing very good. They are very good, very sportive, and everybody wants to be Mbappe, or because Mbappe, I don't know, he's 20 years old, and
22,
but
very
he
young.
was starting to be champion in I think he was 18 years old, something like this. Very, very young. He became very, very rich.
He was 19 when he won the World Cup. That was amazing feat.
Yes, and there are I'm working with people like this. For example, I am working with one man who made physical work. He came from the Ivory Coast, and I discovered that he played for the national team of the Ivory Coast, younger Ivory Coast. He played with Didier Drogba.
Nice.
Yes, but Didier Drogba became a very famous star, and he finished in my place, because you know it is one from 1,000 who make big success, and others they are learning how to play here in Paris, and after they go to play football in Slovakia, Hungary, Eastern Europe, because here is so much competition, so many people are playing that if they want to earning money with football, they have to find a poor country with the football team with nobody heard, and
well, if they want to come to Greece, they're welcome. We are neither very successful. We are 12th in money in Europe, I think, as a football league. So we are neither very successful, but we are not very poor either. So they're welcome to come and play in Greek football if they want.
Do you know Krzysztof Warzycha?
Christoph
Warzycha.
Wazecha, yeah, of course. He was a trade unionist in Poland and during the socialist times.
No, Warzycha. He
I
was
thought
a
you meant
player
wait,
in
Walesa?
Panathinaikos Atheny.
Yeah, I thought you meant Walesa.
No, Valencia. is not.
But you
No,
know, yeah, Wazecha, I know him. I think he was in Panathinaikos. Panathinaikos are our rivals, of course. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I remember him.
Okay, comrade. So we will talk next time.
Of course.
Thank you for your time. Many interesting things you
And-
said.
Of course, yes.
Okay, so I will finish this.